Welcome to Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas podcast. Find us online at hancepodcast.com. Instagram is at the best storyteller podcast. And on YouTube, search Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas. Chancellor, as always, why don't you start us out with the saying of the day?
Saying of the day from Bill Gates: your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. You're going to learn a lot from them, and you better listen to them, because as Sam Walton said, they're going to vote with their feet. They'll walk to some other place. They'll go trade with somebody else.
Chancellor, you just got back from a trip to Argentina. You were gone with a group of friends for nearly 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was 12 days in Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Brazil, but mostly Argentina. And it's a beautiful country, great people. It's not like going in Europe. Almost everybody speaks some English, and that's just not true in Argentina. We hadn't had enough people go down there to visit, I guess. Every restaurant will have one or something they'll assign you. And but it's a great country, but it's been abused by their political people through corruption, and it's just socialistic. Their inflation for last year was 130%. And this year they think it's going to be 125 to 130%. So the money you earn it's gone in a short period of time. When we first looked at going down there, that for a $100 bill you got 1,300 pesos, and by the time we left it was 10,000. You go in and take a $100 bill and get an exchange for it, and your pockets would just be bulging. I said, we might as well put a sign on that says, "Come rob us now." And Buenos Aires is a great city, a beautiful city, nice museums. Food was good, a lot of steak, a lot of beef. They raise a lot of cattle. And sausage. Oh, you had great sausage. And so we ate at some of the nicest places and some of the nicest buildings. Went to see the ambassador, Mark Stanley. There are 2 Texans that are ambassadors, and one is in Argentina, and the other one's in Iceland. So Karen Patman, ambassador to Iceland, we saw last year. And this year we saw Mark Stanley, who I think does as good a job as I've ever seen. He has met with all the people running for president, listened to them, was very nice to them. He meets with candidates left and right, and just make sure that we know what they're thinking and they know what we're thinking. And he is a great diplomat. He's from Dallas. He's a trial lawyer and has been working, as a retired person, do kind of what he wants to, and he got appointed ambassador.
Speaking of people that are running for president, Representative Dean Phillips is now challenging President Biden for the Democratic nomination.
Dean Phillips is a young man, 54, I believe, and his family, he inherited the Phillips Distilling Company, and they are wholesalers of liquor and wine. He went to Brown University, which is a great school. It's the oldest Ivy League school. One of my kids was thinking about going to Brown one time, and I told my friend Fastball Walker that thing about going to Brown. He said, "Who are they playing football, green and yellow?" I said, "No, Fastball, you probably shouldn't go to Brown." And then he got an MBA at the University of Minnesota, was elected to Congress in 2018. And has been centrist to liberal, is not a progressive. And I think he's just running thinking that, Biden doesn't have a chance and somebody needs to point it out. He's got enough money, his personal wealth, that wealth statement he has to file with the Congress shows him net worth about $77 million. So he may spend a few million of his own dollars and be a formidable candidate. I've always told people, anyone that gets in a campaign and they're willing to spend some of their own money, they're going to be a formidable candidate. I could write a PhD on what Clayton Williams taught me about running for governor. If one side's got $23 million and they don't have to raise it, they just spend it. And you've got $3.5 million, you have to spend all the time raise money. It's hard to overcome. And so it's the money makes him a legitimate candidate. Kennedy, and you know, he's going to run as an independent. And I felt like he ought to stay on the Democratic side because as an independent, I just don't know that he can get enough votes to be considered. Ross Perot had unlimited sums of money and just could not be a factor other than he got Bush beat. And that was one of his goals. He had a personal relationship with Bush that wasn't good, and he didn't like him, and I think it was mutual, and it was a bad situation.
Did you see President Bush throw out the first pitch at the World Series?
I did. I thought it was great, and was proud of him. Didn't have to bounce it up there 3 times or anything like that. And World Series, watched a couple of games, and Rangers came back strong that first game, and the second game they weren't able to do that. And Diamondbacks are good. These are good offensive teams. They hit the ball, and they make it an exciting game.
We encourage you to scroll through the past episodes of Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas, and also check out our website, which is HancePodcast.com. Chancellor Jamal Brown, he pled guilty to falsely pulling the fire alarm at the Capitol.
Jamal Brown's a Democrat from New York and member of Congress. Has not been known one way or the other. He's pretty liberal, progressive, and I think he was trying to slow down a vote on a spending bill that didn't have what he wanted in there, and he pulled the fire alarm. And he said he thought it was a door alarm, and it was to unlock a door. That building's been there over 100 years, and no one, including members of Congress or people that aren't members of Congress, have ever pulled it thinking that it was to unlock a door. And so that's his story. He's going to pay a $1,000 fine and be done with it and move on. I think back on elections, I want to go back to the Argentina thing just a bit. Their election is one day, and I like that. They don't have 20 days. You don't know when to start your ads. You don't know you'll have enough money for the ads and everything. They have one day. You vote, and it's on a Sunday. It's a national holiday. They sell no liquor, beer, alcohol of any kind, starting at 8 o'clock on Saturday night all the way till Sunday night when the polls close. And you vote. You go in all these – there's places to vote everywhere. And you get the ballots, and there's a picture and the name, and you just it's perforated, and you just tear it off and turn it in. And they have counters that are there counting as soon as the polls open in the morning, and they have the results that night by about 10:30. It's very simple, and it's very hard for someone to steal or to do something like that. And there's a lot to be learned. We get into a deal where you have 20 days to vote. You can mail in votes. You can do this. You can do that. And the more you can do and the more it's spread out, the more apt you to get fraud. And so you got to be careful. But I think their system works pretty well. Now, the result, they've elected some bad people that have put socialism to the front of the agenda, and it's been difficult for them. 42% of the people live on welfare, some type of welfare from the government. So it's hard for them to do it. They had the election on Sunday, and there'll be a runoff on November the 19th. And the two in the runoff is the present president, who is a socialist, and another guy that's running that's a big Trump supporter. And so it's just amazing the influence we have, whether you like it or don't like it, that we have so much influence worldwide that one of our past candidates got beat. He's got a guy up and standing up and making speeches, and he's a fiery guy and has a lot of support, and he's talking about Donald Trump, and the other guy's not. He's talking about Joe Biden. So we have a big impact. A friend of mine that was an ambassador during the Bush administration told me that at ambassador school, they tell you got to be careful what you do, and you may be well worth. You may be the most powerful person in that country. And so you got to work with the people, and in some instances, the American ambassador is the most powerful person in a country.
Is that because of their closeness to the
closeness, and also it's a fact that America's such a powerful country. Now I don't know, ever since Afghanistan, we've kind of been on the defensive, and it's been a slide. And you look at Israel, and I think a lot of people, they thought if you mess with Trump, hell, you don't know what he's going to do. He might put the big one on you, somebody said. You got to be careful. And I think they feel like that with Afghanistan, that Biden was going to pull out. The way he pulled out, was just terrible, and left all that equipment for people that are going to use it to kill us, and that Hezbollah and the people, the Iranians, they get a hold of those things. And you look at we've got a new speaker, and you look at the issues right now. Ukraine, Israel, Hamas, the southern border. It was just all kinds of things. I noticed this last week, the legislature in Texas passed some legislation that will allow Texas police officers to arrest someone that's here illegally and take them back. And that'll be contested in the courts, but I think it's a step in the right direction.
Going back just a little bit, talking about the departure from Afghanistan, the bad guys seem to sense weakness, and when they sense that, they act.
They do that, and that's not only in worldwide geopolitics, but it's also in everyday life. And if there's bad people out there and they think you're weak in a certain area and they take something from you, they're going to do it. And it's just like going to get a loan. If you go to get a loan and you've got a good financial statement, you're going to get some good terms. If you've got a financial statement that includes 3 foreclosures and 2 bankruptcies, you're not going to get very good terms. And same thing in politics. If you've been strong in international relations, you're going to have strength with every country that you deal with.
Chancellor, let's talk about news out of Russia. The Kremlin usually ignores it, but decided to issue a statement yesterday to tell everyone that President Vladimir Putin is alive.
Putin's not dead, as a headline. Putin's not dead. And I always think back when I think of Putin, I think of him telling Bush, I think my dog can kill your dog. Now, right there, he's a little off. Just normal people sitting around. The guy said, I bet you my dog can kill your dog. I believe I'll pass on that, Mr. Putin. The other thing he could have done is pull out a gun and shot his dog, but that wouldn't help things. The rumors been that Putin's sick and that he's not doing well. And so some of the conspiracy theories that operate on the internet had really been pumping that, and the Kremlin came out and said, he's not dead. And that's, in campaigns, LBJ, there was a campaign one time, and they put out a rumor that he had been involved with animals. And the guy'd get up and start his speeches, said, I'm so-and-so and I'm running for sheriff and I've never been involved with an animal. And everybody would look around the room like, well, wonder why he said that. Is that true? Or, and so it's kind of, why did they say that? Is Putin near death? If he does die, there'll be a big struggle internally within Russia to replace him. And I would think that the war in Ukraine might well come to a halt sooner rather than later. Putin got his ego involved in that war, and he thought it was going to be a 3 to 5 day war. They'd just run over him. Ukraine people, whether you like them or not, but they're tough. They hung in there and are to be admired for it.
We encourage you to follow us on social media. On Instagram, it is at The Best Storyteller Podcast. And on YouTube, you can search Kent Hance, The Best Storyteller in Podcast. Chancellor, speaking of YouTube, YouTube estimates that content creators support around 390,000 full-time jobs.
I saw that, and they've got two of them they mentioned that these people are creating things for whether it's games or whatever. They're creating content for the internet. They've got more employees than General Motors. Of course, General Motors on strike right now, but they've got 390,000 employees. Those are young people that sitting in there trying to figure out how to get you to do something you don't want to do, spend a little money with somebody. And it's just amazing to me that many people that are dealing with content, trying to come up with good content, that there'd be 390,000 of them. That's huge.
And it makes it very competitive.
Oh, it's very competitive.
Speaking of amazing, Bloomberg is now saying Taylor Swift is a billionaire.
She's they say she's worth $1.1 billion. You know, she had those tours this summer. And that, I mean, people stood in line for hours to get tickets. And her appeal is unbelievable. And then she's been dating the guy with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Kelsey.
And don't want to get the wrong player, in there. And that's helped his sales at NFL stores and souvenir shops have gone up tremendously just because I don't know if they've had a date or not. But the fact that she sat in his box and was there with his mother and everything, they've hyped it. And, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
The upside is far greater for him than her.
Yes.
In that relationship.
No question. Especially, he's a professional football player and he makes millions, but he's not worth $1.1 billion.
Speaking of dating, did you happen to see this list of places? It kind of went viral that women don't want to go on a first date.
Yeah, I saw that, and it was they interviewed all these women and said, "What do you not want to do on the first date?" And I wrote down some. They don't want to go to chain restaurants.
Yeah.
I always go back. If you get invited someplace, either don't go or don't complain.
Where'd you go on a first date in Dimmitt, Texas?
Yeah, you went to the Dairy Queen. Hope that it wasn't closed early. Movies, that they didn't want to go to movies. And I don't understand that. You don't have a lot of interconnection, and so maybe they don't get to know them. They don't want to go to the guy's house to watch a TV, and I understand that. That's good. They don't want to go to a gym. A lot of guys were asking women on a first date to go to the gym with them. Well, that's crazy. They said, put on your workout clothes, let's go over and, he wants to scope you out and work out and see how things go. Well, sporting events, now I don't understand that one. I think a football game, basketball game, something like that, that'd be great. And another one they had was bowling. Didn't want to go bowling. And, I don't know why on that one. But it was just an unusual list, and it got my attention. And it was pretty funny. You'd think about them. But going to the gym, who would ask a woman on a date, so-and-so told me, that you would be good for me to go out with, and why don't we go to the gym and work out? What's she going to think? This guy's a nut.
It reminds me of the bad pickup line about how do you like your eggs?
Yeah, that's the one where they pulled that on a girl that worked for me. They were on 6th Street. This guy said he was trying to get her to leave with him. She didn't have any interest. And he said, I'm a great cook. Said, maybe you go home with me, and how do you like your eggs in the morning? She said, not fertilized. And he realized then that he didn't make the cut.
We mentioned Taylor Swift, the biggest pop star in the world right now, but let's go back a few years to a big pop star from the 70s. She and her brothers, talking about the Osmond family. Marie Osmond has doubled down in not leaving her children an inheritance. She says she thinks an inheritance would harm them.
there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people have left a lot of money to some kids that turned out sorry. They just were semi worthless because they had unlimited sums of money. They didn't know how to work. They did. It was just bad situations. I think she's got a point. And if I had $5 billion, I wouldn't give it to a bunch of kids to get messed up. Might give them $1 million or $2 million, but sure wouldn't give them some outlandish sum. I think she's got a good point. There how many families that just they get a certain amount of money when they get to be 18 or 19, and they don't value money. They don't know what to do with it, and they hadn't worked for it.
You end up with a bunch of spoiled brats.
Yeah, you do.
Speaking of, I don't know if this guy was a spoiled brat or not, but he's got some issues. A flight school student threw a tantrum because they wouldn't let him fly by himself, so he started damaging airplanes.
He wanted to, I read that, he wanted to go on a solo flight before he was ready. And he went around hitting other planes in the hangar, did over $120,000 worth of damage. You can do a little dent on an airplane and affect its aerodynamics, and it's going to cost a lot of money to fix it. And so I would say the thing to learn from this is that he should be, prosecuted, and he should be in a position where he doesn't get a flying license. I don't want him out there flying. If he gets mad at somebody, he's going to try to fly him into the ground.
That's kind of like the story about the guy that tried to take over the airplane recently. His wife says she was shocked.
That was the fellow, he was a pilot for Alaskan Airlines, and he was flying in the jump seat, and he decided to just shut the fuel off, which would send him to the ground, and they had to fight him. And the pilot and co-pilot had to fight him and hit him and do everything they could to get it under control. A couple of decades ago, FedEx had a pilot that went nuts and took a wrench and was trying to kill the pilot and the co-pilot and caused some damage to him. And he finally got prosecuted. But that the thing that, the Alaskan Airlines guy is going to be prosecuted. They filed 83 attempted murder cases against him.
Was that the number of passengers and crew?
Number of passengers and crew was 83. So they're indicting him. They filed charges, and the grand jury will come back and indict him on 83 attempted murder. Okay, he's going to be there a long time, and I think they're sending a signal. If you try to take over an airline and crash it or something, you're going to go to the big house for a long time, period.
Halloween is tomorrow, so a lot of people talking about different fears and phobias that are out there, and there are a bunch of them.
I saw that, and they had the fears. The biggest one, heights, and I understand that. And another close second was claustrophobia. And I always, I can get a little claustrophobic, but a third one that I think, snakes. I just tell you, snakes scare me. People say, no, most snakes are not poisonous and they don't hurt you and everything. They just scare me. I can look at a snake on TV and I start looking around my chair. I don't want to be around snake, and that especially if it's a rattlesnake or water moccasin or something that could give you a bad time. But a lot of people, there was a time there movies, and I'm not a movie guy, but they were having these snakes about an anaconda and a python that get loose on an airplane and taking over the plane and squeezing everybody to death. And they were advertising that. I didn't want to go see that movie. I dream about it. It's like the Chainsaw Massacre. I had one of my friends in Lubbock invested in that. He made a lot of money. It's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it was, that thing sold overseas even bigger than it did in the United States. Japanese loved it. I don't know why, but boy, they ate it up. And they had Texas Chainsaw Massacre #1, #2. I always thought when Rambo came out and they had those, I was going to wait. And when Rambo 28 came out, I was going to watch it.
Please follow us on social media. It is on Instagram at The Best Storyteller Podcast, and YouTube. You can find us by searching Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas. We do encourage you to go back through the library. Last week, Senator Ted Cruz, a great episode, a great opportunity for you to get to know Senator Cruz, the man, not the politics.
We didn't talk about the politics. I didn't ask him about tax cuts or anything. People are going to know those things. I want to know how he got where he is now. And also, how did he get to be a clerk for the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court? Cruz is, whether you like him or dislike him, he's a smart guy. He's real smart. And went to Princeton undergraduate and then went to law school at Harvard. And Dershowitz says he's the smartest student he ever had. And that and to clerk for any federal judge is a big deal. If you clerk for a circuit judge, it's even a bigger deal. And if you clerk for someone on the U.S. Supreme Court, that's tremendous. Says a lot about your knowledge and your ability to write and write in such ways that people certainly understand you. We were talking a while ago about the Alaskan airline guy, and they're prosecuting him, 83 cases. A report came out last week that the number one in the last 5 years in shoplifting, where the most shoplifting has taken place, number one in the last 5 years, every year has been Los Angeles. Number two is San Francisco. And number three is Oakland. Now, what do they have in common? They have in common prosecutors that George Soros helped get elected. They're in California. And with shoplifting, if it's less than $1,000, they write you a ticket. They don't arrest you, even if they count you. If you go in there and you're carrying out goods that are worth $600, they don't arrest you. They'll write you a ticket, like a speeding ticket. And so theft is up tremendously. And if you're not prosecuting those crimes, they're going to continue to grow. But the top three have remained the top three the whole time. And they're all in California. Now, we have some in Texas that they won't prosecute in certain counties unless it's over a certain amount. Usually it's about $750 or below they don't prosecute. I think, that they should. And I know my son-in-law is district attorney in Tarrant County. And if you go up to Tarrant County, I'll give you some free advice. Don't go in there and go to shoplifting, and you get caught, you're going to get prosecuted. Some cities don't do it, but I know they still do it in Tarrant County.
Chancellor, can we wrap up with the saying of the day?
Your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning about your business. Have a great day and a safe Halloween.